Welcome back to this week's edition of 101 Sports, the Tape Deck, where we take a look forward and a look back at the things that have happened in sports. So let's start things off with going to the 1 o'clock games earlier today in the NFL and see what happened.
Week 7 in the NFL, New England versus New York. New England looking to gain some ground and push a little bit further ahead in the division. But oh no, when you're throwing picks, Tom Brady, it is not going to happen. It was an ugly day for Tom. And frankly, he's been having the last couple weeks been pretty rough. But in overtime, the Jets pull it out. They missed the first field goal, but an unsportsmanlike penalty helped give them better range. 30-27, Jets get the win. Tom, not too pleased. Philly versus Dallas, both teams 3-3, battle for first in the division. And today, the battle would go to Dallas. They held the Philly offense to 3 points. It didn't help that Matt Barkley ended up coming into the game after Nick Foles got hurt and threw 3 interceptions on 20 attempts. Dallas wins and goes to 4-3 over the Eagles. Chicago versus Washington. Normally, Chicago D, pretty well, they can stop a lot of things. Not today. High-scoring affair between the two. Washington wins 45-41. Helou, 3 touchdowns. Forte, 3 touchdowns. A lot of scoring. Washington wins. Chicago loses. Detroit and Cincinnati, both teams 4-2. Detroit trying to come back, and Stafford launches one to who else but Megatron, who somehow makes a miraculous catch, tied up at 24. However, Cincinnati would get the game-winning field goal as time expires. They win 27-24. A.J. Green and Megatron, both huge games, $1.55 each. Ooh. Carolina versus St. Louis. More average teams here, but what's going to happen? St. Louis pretty much hands Carolina the win. Turnovers were a problem. Beautiful pick 6 right here. Takes it all the way to the house. Carolina wins 30-15, gets to 3-3, and has the lowly Tampa Bay next week. And Tampa Bay now against Atlanta. Can they get a win? Nope. Even with Julio out and Roddy hurt, they can't get the win. 31-23. Tampa loses 0-6 next week against Carolina, trying to get their first win. Miami versus Buffalo. Miami trying to get a little bit ahead into the division, but nope. Buffalo makes it a little closer. 3-4 and 3-3 after this game. Buffalo wins 23-21, holding off Miami. Jacksonville versus San Diego. Jacksonville also looking for a win, and we all know it's not going to happen. The uniforms still look beautiful, though, to this point, despite the fact that they lose again and go 0-7. Not going to get easier against San Francisco, but boy, do those helmets look great.
Alrighty, now that we have seen the 1 o'clock games in the NFL today, let's take a little bit of a further look back to yesterday in college football. Arguably one of the biggest games of the year, and certainly the biggest game of the year for ACC. Frankly, the biggest game in years for the ACC happened. Clemson versus Florida State. Florida State came into Death Valley, and, well, they steamrolled over the Tigers. Let's take a look a little bit more closely at how Florida State was able to do it.
All right, well, one way to do it is by giving your big man the ball. Over 6-foot Benjamin in the end zone, launch it up against the shorter corner. He's going to bring it down. That's a big man making a big play, and that set the tone for the rest of the game, scoring early off the fumble. Now, right here, it's a simple case. Clemson, you got to make a tackle. It's an easy hitch route. This should be no more than 10 yards. And whoop, 1 tackle miss, 2nd tackle miss, and then a sprint to the end zone. So put together big plays by Florida State and a lot of errors on Clemson's part. And hey, Florida State will get the win.
All right, so now that we've broken down the game, let's talk a little bit about Florida State. A lot of people are thinking, where do they fit into the national contender picture? Obviously, number 1 is Alabama, and then there's number 2 as of last week with Oregon. We're kind of waiting for the BCS standings to come out, and we'll see maybe if there was a jump if Florida State went to maybe 3 or let alone 2. But again, let's go a little more detail. They've done remarkably well all year. Jameis Winston has lived up and gone beyond the hype that was surrounding him coming into this season. As a quarterback, he's playing like a champion. When he has to run the ball, what he does, and when he needs to make a big play, he makes it happen. Like I said, yesterday against Clemson, over 400 yards passing. He did throw a pick, but that wasn't even him. That was a miscue on his receiver's part. Thought the route was going to be something else, and the receiver ran the wrong route. Wasn't a bad pass. It was just poor communication. Receiver should have known where to go. He threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for another one. He pretty much went to Death Valley, and he said out loud, and after the game, we don't care about the noise. We don't care if there's over 80,000 fans screaming. It's our game. All we're playing against is the Clemson Tigers, not the 12th man, which is the entire rest of the stadium. And they went in and proved it. He talks the talk, and you know what? He's walking the walk. But what is that going to do for Florida State in terms of the national title? I think it's pretty safe to assume that if Alabama goes undefeated the rest of the way, you're probably going to see them remain number 1 and go into the title game. But can Florida State possibly beat out Oregon if Oregon were to win out? That's where it gets hard. Their competition, the hardest things they're going to play probably just happened with Clemson and then Maryland. Those were great. They won away at Clemson, but all they have really left is Florida, Miami, and then the ACC championship game, which is probably going to wind up being against Virginia Tech. My personal theory, if Winston and the rest of the Seminoles can go out and win games, and not just win them like the ACC championship or against Miami by a score of 40-25, 40-30, something where it's like clearly they won, but it wasn't a complete shutout, then they're probably going to remain in this number 3 spot. But if they can go against Miami, Virginia Tech, Florida, and every other team and continue to do what they've done the last 2 weeks against Maryland and against Clemson, personally, you will see Florida State with a pretty large chance of getting into the BCS title game. Heck, in the AP poll that came out today, they're number 3, right behind Oregon, and they got some first-place votes. The gap between them is shrinking rapidly. But we will just have to see how the rest of the season goes, let alone how Oregon plays. If Oregon does really well, then they can keep making a case, and if they falter, then Florida State gets an easy path in. Now let's just back a little bit up from Florida State and Clemson and Oregon. Let's do the whole top 5. Let's kind of do a breakdown. We're pretty far into the season. Like I said, number 1, clear cut, Alabama. Nick Saban once again is just making this team a beautiful thing to watch. It's classic football. It's hard-nosed, nose to the grindstone, run hard. A.J. McCarron is a great quarterback. The defense doesn't allow a lot of points. Texas A&M. And the offense, is about ball control. Get the ball down the field. They can pass. They can run. They can beat you in any way. I think they're pretty much the clear-cut number 1s. If they go undefeated, they will be in the title game. And I don't see them losing at all for the rest of this year. Number 2, as of now, it is Oregon, in my opinion. It's got to be Oregon. Their offense is just... it's fast. It's very fast, and they score a lot of points, and they do it by running very fast. It's kind of scary. And you know what? Unless that starts to stop in the next couple weeks, I can't really see them losing too many games, if any at all, for the rest of the year. What does concern me a little bit is the defense. It's not terrible, no. It's a good defense. But that is the one area where if their offense somehow gets slowed down by a team like Alabama or Florida State in the future, can their defense also stop an opposing offense? Number 3, Florida State. We've got enough detail about it. Jameis Winston's playing out of his mind, and if he keeps doing that, he and Jimbo Fisher are going to take the Seminoles and lead them to great places. Now, number 4, Ohio State. I feel kind of bad saying this. They've won. They're doing pretty darn well, but they're just not in that top 3 tier. I want some big wins out of Ohio State, and by big wins, I mean big games and big point totals against very little point totals against them. Then I will consider putting them up in the top 3. Right now, they are very comfortable sitting happily at number 4. And then number 5 is a very interesting spot right now. Personal opinion, you have Baylor, you got Miami, and you got Missouri, all kind of having their own cases. Maybe a reason they could get the nod to make their way in there. Personally, I am going to go with Baylor on this one, strictly for the fact that I do love how their offense is playing right now. Who knows? Everyone thought after RG3 left, Baylor would probably go down the crapshoot, but nope, they're performing great. Offense is playing well. I'm curious to see how they do for the rest of the season. Same thing with Miami, same thing with Missouri, because frankly, it's going to come down to big games, and whoever can come out with a victory and make the most complete case of a victory, and that's why I think it's going to round out the top 5. Now, away from college football, let's talk some baseball. World Series is coming on. Boston, St. Louis. Who's going to come out on top of this? Personally, I think it comes down to home field advantage. When you look at how the two teams have played thus far in the playoffs, each of them are almost undefeated at home, 1 game loss each, and both of them are around average 500, maybe a little bit below that away. That's frankly how it falls. Boston's got 4 games, St. Louis has 3. I'm not saying it's going to be a 7-game series. I'm going to say, though, that Boston, who managed to shut down Verlander and Scherzer and do well against Detroit, put away the rapid and on-fire Tampa Bay Rays when they were coming into the playoffs. I think Boston's going to come out on top. Plus, the amount of beards on that team, I mean, it deserves a victory at this point. Jared Saltalamacchia's beard could, catch things. It's like a net. It's incredible. But no, seriously, if Jacoby Ellsbury, Ortiz, and the rest of the crew continues to do well offensively in the pitching, and most importantly, the reserves continue to pitch well, I do believe Boston's going to come out of this in 7. It will be a good series to watch. There will be some games, I believe, where the scoring will happen, the offenses will take over, but you will find games also where the scores are very low and the pitching's going to carry the teams all the way. I'm excited to see it. I hope you are too. However, that is all the time that I'm going to take to talk about the World Series. Let's take a look at tomorrow night in the NFL when Minnesota is set to play against the New York Giants. I think we all agree that aside from watching Jacksonville play a football game, this is about as next worst as you're going to get. But there are some pros here. Adrian Peterson is playing, and that is always something that's exciting. Eli Manning is bound to throw a few interceptions, and that's also exciting. And most importantly, there are a number of people in this game that are great for fantasy football. Adrian Peterson will be probably a lot of starting lineups, as will Victor Cruz. But those are the obvious ones. At this point, Blair Walsh is going to kick a lot of field goals against the Giants. If he is a free agent in your league and you're going in tomorrow night's game and you, for some reason, not played your kicker yet, pick him up. That is a good choice. Frankly, pick up the Minnesota defense. You're bound to get a pick 6 or 2. That's going to help. Thank you, Eli, for that one. Maybe pick up the Giants defense. With Josh Freeman starting, he got released. He's starting again. He's captain turnovers. Trust me. Pick him up. So fantasy football, this is a great game. Aside from fantasy football, it's not a great game. Hopefully the Giants will lose because it's kind of funny, and Tom Coughlin's seat, again, is getting warmer and warmer. Now, all right, now we're just playing. That's all the time that we have on this episode of The Tape Deck. Thank you for stopping by, and we cannot wait to see you next week, and we'll talk to you more about the wonderful things that are happening in the world of sports.